What's up, AfterBuzzers? We're here covering Masters of Sex Season 4, Episode 1, the season premiere. See what the season has in store.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Ooh, I like the old version better, right? Don't you?
It's so fun.
It is.
Gets us in the mood.
As the song's very appropriate for the show. Right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Season 4, Episode 1, called Freefall. This is a season premiere of Masters of Sex. Yes. I'm your lead host, Olivia Gabaree, and you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @real_O_G. And I'm joined by...
I'm Ryan Graham. You can find me on Twitter at Ryan Graham with 2 N's.
Hello, Domonique here. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at DomoniqueP_ESQ.
Yes. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube, our iTunes. Give us a thumbs up. Give us good ratings, comments, feedback. We love it all. So diving right into it, since this is the season premiere, the last season left us off in kind of a crazy spot, right? So we had all these like lawsuits coming about and broken relationships, and we open right up to Virginia and Bill in very opposite places, but very similar, parallel at the same time, which is kind of bizarre. What do you guys think?
I think it's very accurate to their relationship, because I think as much as they try to like be different and be their own independent people, they still need each other. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's always that drawback to each other no matter what. As you see towards the conclusion of this episode, no matter where they go, something is always bringing those two back together. And I think it's symbolic of their relationship. It doesn't matter how far they go. Something in them is very similar.
Exactly.
Together.
Well, although I do think it's similar, I think what's really, really interesting is I feel like the control dynamic has completely shifted. Oh, yeah. I think every single season before this, Bill was definitely the one in control. Mm-hmm. He just had this sense of power over Virginia. Mm. And I feel like as last season ended and we get into the beginning of this season, we see an incredible just power shift, which I think speaks a lot to the time period that we see this episode starting in. So it's like really cool to see Virginia kind of stepping into her own.
Mm-hmm. So women are on the rise. Right. In 1969, what was it? The Miss America bra protest. Yeah. That was like the first thing that I opened up to. Like, wow. Women are going crazy. So we have Virginia is in Vegas, where she went, and I guess she married Dan. She's calling him her husband.
Yeah, it was very weird. I was trying to figure all of that out. Like, I was like, so where exactly are we? Right?
Last season ended with them getting ready to get on a plane to go to Mexico to get a quickie divorce, which I never heard of before. As an attorney, I'm like, you can get a quickie divorce in Mexico?
Maybe it was just the times or something.
Right? I was like confused. Then she wakes up in the bedroom in Vegas, super hungover, and Dan is nowhere in sight.
Very Katy Perry-esque.
Very Katy Perry-esque.
I agree. So she's in Vegas. Dan's at the bar.
Dan's MIA. He's not at the bar.
Not Dan. Bill, rather, is at the bar.
Yes.
So they have very similar storylines. They're both drunk or about to get drunk.
Alone at a bar.
They're both alone. They're both confused, and they're both like going off about their lives, but it's not really their lives. They're just making it all up.
And they're both telling stories.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing is I was like, so even when she was talking about her husband, like the fact that Dan is missing, it still makes me think back to, it was like season 2. They were having this when they were having their affair in the hotel and they were making up stories about their lives. So I was like, if you take Dan out of the picture, it's like, okay, are you talking about Dan or are you talking about Bill?
That's a
like, and that's what I literally the whole time I was like,
I
was like, I don't know if she's talking about Dan. I was like, I honestly think she's talking about Bill. Like, if you take him out of the picture and don't think about him, everything she was saying is kind of like, okay, this could be alluding to your relationship with Bill. So I don't know, but that's my takeaway. When I was thinking, I was like, I don't know, is it about Dan? But I don't know. That's neither here nor there. It could be.
I'm like, did she kill him?
Actually,
I know, it's so weird because the whole entire time, she's referring to him as her husband.
Him?
Exactly.
We don't know who him is, but she's it could be George for all we. You know what I'm saying? Like, who's your husband these days?
Where are your children?
Where are your children?
I don't know. Where are the kids? 100%. I'm like, where are they?
So
they're with their
crazy.
dad, but, like,
So they're both apart, but their lives are both a mess. And it's just great minds think alike, apparently, even though it's not really for the positive end at this
Can
point.
we talk about Libby and this
Praise.
attitude she has going on, this women's group that she's at? But what it reminded me of was, if we remember last season when Libby got into like one of her funks, she found the civil rights movement and she got really, really engulfed in that. And then we see her at this women's group, and it kind of reminded me about the fact that Libby has no like self-identity.
She's looking.
And that's what I'm hoping that kind of develops this season. Who is Libby?
Yeah.
Like, without Bill, like, who is Libby?
Well, I think that's something we're definitely going to explore more, because especially where we are in the times and where we are, you know, historically, every woman in this story has their own significant plot line. So we open up with Betty. She's running the entire office solo, and she's like making up all these crazy lies because she doesn't know what to tell anybody. You know, they just left her in such chaos. Virginia's apparently in Vegas by herself, and then Libby is no husband, she doesn't have her man anymore. She has nobody.
The thing is that I personally enjoy Libby's growth. I think that it is, because I just love that she is becoming. I mean, I agree. I don't like that she is being vindictive. I think that's annoying. But I like that she is somewhat finding her voice and like saying I've had enough, and being like, no, I don't need you, because so much I feel like she's been so weak with Bill.
But
she's so weak.
I could be for this. I could be for this Libby empowerment if she would have been the one to walk away. In that where were they? The police station, where she was like, "Don't finish what you're saying. I don't want you to do this." It was just like, girl, like,
I felt sorry for her.
I felt really like sorry for her, but she chose this. Like, we all have a choice in life, and she decided to put on this charade. Like, when she told Bill, like, yeah, Virginia and I talked about this, and this was not how this is gonna go. I'm like.
But I think this season, the way it opened up was like, she's throwing Bill's clothes away. She's marching down to the lawyer's office. Like, she's ready.
Done.
She's taking, like, she's telling everybody Bill's dead. You know what I'm saying? But unfortunately, what we really see in this episode especially is, like, the power struggle of women. So she seeks, like, help in this lawyer, and she just wants a solution. She wants to be safe from Bill. She wants her family to be safe, and all he can really offer her is a women's group. Which is kind of upsetting. But so we can follow Libby's storyline first. So she ends up going to the women's group, and she doesn't think that is something that she would enjoy. This group is called like a consciousness raise, like what do they call
consciousness
it?
Awareness
group. And it was like basically women getting together to explore their being in the world that they are. I mean, I feel weird saying this as a man. Like, let me mansplain this group to you. Oh no, now I feel bad, because I am always like pro women. Like, I love to see women do things like that. But it's basically a women's group that gets together, and then it feels very like the first wave of feminism. Like it's obviously because that's the time period. I love this group, and I think it's great for Libby because it's not her. Like, she is very Miss Prim and Proper, and like not Southern Belle, but for lack of a better term, Southern Belle. And it's cool to see her with these pretty radical women who are like the first line, she goes, "Oh, last names are a way for a man to show ownership." I was like, whoa, like, drop some knowledge. I loved that. And I was like, yes, like, that is a really cool thing to say. And I've never even thought about that, like, as a man, but like, it kind of makes sense. Yeah, it's like, it's kind of a way of ownership, and it's weird. It is. And so that's one thing I really appreciate about this show is that it shows a time period, and we know that there was a lot of sexism in that time, but it gives us a different view on it. Like, I don't think we've ever explored how women felt during that. And I think this show really kind of dives into what it was like to be a woman and how to be a strong and smart woman and navigate your femininity in that time. And I just think that's interesting. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm a guy, and so I like to do that.
I think as Libby was, I mean, because she was very closed off entering this group, right? She wasn't really receptive to it, and I think as she was warming up to it, I was kind of warming up to it as well. You know, like, she wasn't about the pot. She just wanted some coffee, you know, and then
warmed up to the wine.
Yeah, she was like, okay, maybe just a glass. And then we got just like the one-on-one scene when they were talking about the bra. She's like, well, I don't understand, like that just seems like a waste. Why do you need to do that? And she explained, like, well, a man invented this in this big corporation company and they just like have a power over us. And she's like, you know what,
you're right,
I'm gonna take my damn bra off. And I was like, me too.
No, in honor of Olivia, I was like, I'm not wearing a bra today.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it.
You know what?
But what I love about this show is that it's constantly breaking down like really interesting topics. And I think you see that with just the title of the show, Masters of Sex. Like you think it's going to be this really provocative show, but it's like really thought-provoking.
Yes.
And we've seen that season after season after season. So I'm really, really excited to, although I'm not a Libby fan right now, I'm hoping that through this group and what she's getting ready to go through with this divorce, that I can be on Team Libby as I watch her kind of grow into her womanhood that I don't feel like she's had an opportunity to kind of tap into thus far.
And I guess, are we going to do predictions later? Because okay, because I
have lots.
Oh, me too.
I have a whole later.
I
have a list.
Because I have a thought or two about this women's group. We'll see.
Okay, so while we're on the independence of women, we can bring it back to Virginia. So right now she's in Vegas, and she kind of, another parallel I want to draw is, she's kind of a wreck right now, right? She's getting drunk, she's dancing, she doesn't know what she's doing, where
Vegas.
she's at, whatever. It's Vegas, baby, So I think what I thought the most interesting part of Vegas was when she went to that sex show and she kind of showed everyone up. I think that was like a great moment for her. She was kind of on a power trip. She really like schooled that guy, He thought he knew what he was talking about, even claimed to have known her.
Yeah.
And she was just like, you know what I mean?
I loved every bit of it.
I did too, but you know what is also weird about this? And I feel like the show has a weird way of doing, of attaching a woman to a man. I feel, although I loved her doing it, it was very Bill-esque. Like, that is something Bill would do. He would be there like,
But
it was
the thing
very
that I
Bill-esque.
love about the Bill and Virginia relationship is that I feel like they've grown so much by taking pieces of each other and adapting it into their own character. Like Virginia normally wouldn't have been so like outspoken and to kind of belittle this guy in front of a room full of people, and we see Bill kind of like coming into his own, kind of being able to like adapt to people a little bit more. And so I feel like they're starting to kind of like become one, which is really freaky.
And as you see, they're across the country from each other doing the same exact thing. It's crazy.
That is weird. That is so weird.
I think that, once she schooled this guy, everyone recognized her. She got all the attention. I think that kind of hyped her up and kind of was like,
gave her the confidence.
They gave her the confidence, and she was like, to move forward independently as her own like scholar, as her own doctor, scientist, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And so at that point, she was like, something, I'm going to contact Hugh. Hugh Hefner, Playboy, the Playboy guy.
Honestly, is it weird that I didn't realize? I mean, like, through this show, I've realized, but I was like, I didn't realize he was around back then. Like, I didn't.
He's pretty old.
I don't know. Well, it's not.
Hef has been around like.
I mean, I guess just in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, Playboy, but like, I didn't realize it went like it deep like Playboy.
Well, at this point, so she hits him up and she wants to have a meeting with him because she wants to start her own column.
Right.
And at this even shows how old it is. I didn't realize that the Playboy Mansion was in Chicago. Did you?
Yeah.
Whoa,
So
I
it
always
was.
thought it was
So backing up, originally the Playboy Mansion was not in LA, and then once the empire kind of grown, then it was moved and. From what I understand, it's kind of identical to what it used to look like.
Yeah.
So
just
it's like,
here.
yeah. So historically, like he's done some really, really cool
That's
stuff.
interesting.
But what I also thought was interesting, how we were just talking about how women have to like attach themselves to men. We see this when Libby has the conversation with the attorney.
Right.
We see it, when she's with the women's group. We see it with Virginia and Bill. She's having this conversation with Hugh about, wanting to be in his column. And he even says it. So now that you're breaking up with Bill, you want to attach yourself to me.
Right.
And she kind of has this puzzled look like, well, yeah,
She says yes, but in a different way. But I think it's just, I mean, we still need some progress, but it just sucks to see that's almost how it had to be. Because even if you look back at like Betty from earlier, she had to attach herself to her husband to try to get ahead
to survive.
Yeah, and it really saddens me to see like, wow, it is really a different time, like or this was, and I think it's important for women today and men today to see that, like, yeah, this is how things really used to be, and like not to forget that, because I feel like if you don't remember what things used to be, it's so easy to go back.
You went on a tangent just a little bit, but I do agree. We've come a long way, but not that far. We still have a really long ways to go. And excitingly that, this is only the first episode of the season, so we're going to just see so much more throughout this
big
season,
changes,
which is really cool.
I mean, from the beginning, Hef only agreed to Virginia because he thought they came as a duo, So she shows up to this mansion and meets his assistant.
I think her name's Maud.
Which is a weird name.
Yeah.
I wonder
if that's her name in real life.
It's on my list to Google later.
Yeah, we should definitely look that up.
Yeah.
So, and she's kind of like, where's Bill? Did he get stuck on the plane?
Right.
Like, what's up? And she's like, oh no, I came alone. And she's kind of like,
Well, I will go on a tangent because I am a huge Hugh Hefner fan. He has 3 assistants who have been his assistant for years.
Really?
When I tell you they're like little old women, you remember the show he used to have with the two?
I forget what it's called.
I can't even think of what. Girls Next Girl.
Girls Next Door. Yeah.
And so now I have to go back and check to see if one of the girls is.
yeah, we got to check. We'll let you know next week. So she finally gets into this meeting with Hef, and he's kind of like, he said exactly what you said, now you don't have Bill, you're just trying to attach yourself to me.
Right.
And she's just kind of trying to pitch herself to him, trying to make it seem, from every perspective, like, I can offer you a women's perspective in this magazine, I could really give it to you. And, they kind of just left it off on an uncertain note. And so she meets with the assistant, and they're just having drinks and talking over it. And something really interesting I thought that the assistant was talking to her about, she was kind of like, women have to audition for everything.
Yeah, I was like,
a woman always has to audition.
Yep, and she could, and she referred to her as
tweener.
A tweener. Yeah. So a tweener being half bunny, half scholar.
Basically being like, you're really pretty, but you're also really smart, and it's hard for men to deal with women like that because they can't be like, oh, you're just smart, I don't have to do.
Were you guys kind of thinking what makes her a bunny? Because she's a pretty woman?
I mean, she is. She's
for
a beautiful
sure,
woman.
and she has a very sexy kind of image to her.
But she's such a scholarly
she's a
figure. It's only because she's a woman.
But no, but at the same time, she also I think as a sex researcher, and if you think back to her
she's a very promiscuous
character. She has had some trysts here and there. So,
but let's think season 1. Guys were just drawn to Virginia.
Yeah.
All throughout the hospital, guys were trying to make passes at her before they even knew about her being Bill's assistant.
Right.
In the sex project. So I think there's just something to Virginia that kind of just gives off sex appeal.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's that because she is unlike a lot of other women in this time period in this show, she is very confident and comfortable in her sex life, which was, I mean, even still is to this day taboo. So I think because Virginia has a very strong sense of what she wants in sex, and she even said herself, I can separate, well, I mean, I don't know how much she can anymore, but she's like, I can separate love from sex. And so I think for a woman to have that in her, and I think that is sexy to a man, because I think a lot of guys, they don't always attach sex, or they can definitely separate it, unfortunately so. And so I think to meet a woman like that, it's like, whoa, something about that is really hot. So I think that maybe it's something about her that does that. So and now Hugh, while they're having this conversation, Hef goes behind Virginia's back and contacts Bill. So now that brings us to, where is Bill at in this? Whoa.
in this time, he's kind of in a very bad place. He's struggling as an individual, as a father, as not even a husband anymore. He's just in a lot of trouble. So what do you guys think about
literally
it?
Freefall.
I see it now.
You see it?
Full circle.
Can I just say that I had a list of things I hope stay for the season, and number 1 was his beard.
And gone.
And that thing is off.
And as soon as I got them writing it down, he walks into Hef's office and there's no beard, and I was like,
oh, well,
took his sex appeal up 20 notches.
Yeah, I'll give you that. He did look a lot more. He was a lot more attractive with his beard than without.
But he looked very old. So here we are. But he full-blown alcoholic.
Yeah, poor
he
thing.
gets in a car accident, has to go to AA, and they even bring up. So now we're very clear on the charges against him. So obviously he was drunk driving, and then
the prostitution thing.
pandering and promoting prostitution, and an open investigation into a relationship with a minor.
Yeah.
So he had to go to AA. And another thing I thought was interesting was he was sentenced to community service at an elementary school when he just had a case against him.
It was like that didn't make any sense whatsoever.
I guess that really, I don't know if it's the time or what it does. It's weird.
I think that like I do think it's weird, but I think the reason it was he hit the statue in front of the school.
Right, but
so I think literally that's why.
Not
but
only
I agree,
that,
it's weird.
I think because the judge realized that the charges probably were bogus and they had already been dropped. So I think the judge was. I pray that the judge was thinking like
but
this really isn't an issue.
Do you think? I mean, as you said, you're an attorney, so. I mean, even for, like, allegations like that, I feel like people make such a fuss. Like, no way, don't let him in the school. Like, even if it's questionable, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
that didn't go over my head. I was like,
Yeah.
Very weird. So, he finally gets back to the office, gets back to work, and he, just as Virginia can't really move forward in her career without him, he can't really move forward without her either. Right. I mean, Betty's his sidekick now, but she's just not... She's not doing it for him, you know?
I know it's not prediction time yet, but I do want to talk about the new couple that was there for Bill's first time returning. And it seems like we're kind of going to get into a topic that we hadn't discussed so far on Masters of Sex, and that's fetishes.
But yeah,
I thought that was like really, really interesting because I think just like, you know, sex used to be taboo, I think fetishes now are even more of a taboo than they are then. And so I was really, really surprised when the guy was talking about women's shoes. Yeah. And I was like, man, maybe I have to stop wearing slippers now because he really made me
not even estrogen.
Yeah, not even
nothing
estrogen.
Wait, but did you see that coming? Because first of all, Bill, you could tell that he is not a whole without Virginia because he didn't even pick up on, you know, that the fact that it was kind of bizarre that this man was so attracted to like just fashion.
Yeah, he was very
and Betty's like, why would she, like, are you kidding me? I don't think that he was attracted to me. Like, something's a little off here. And he was like, even then he was kind of skeptical.
Right. But okay, is that Bill is incomplete without Virginia, or is it, which I do agree with, but maybe he's just distracted. I think
a little bit.
Like,
I think he's distracted, and I don't think he's ever been one to pick up on like social cues.
No, also true.
So I think it kind of was a mixture of both.
And as we moved forward with that storyline, you could kind of tell that he just didn't really know how to handle that situation. He was kind of just trying to like tricking him into it, and he still didn't. He was like, "Look, I mean, you can tell me, or I can, you know, kind of trick."
He was very blunt. I mean, he was very Bill-esque. He was really blunt. Like, okay, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I think had it have been Virginia, she probably would have like drawn it out a little bit more. But he was like, look, I want to help you. I'm not going to like treat you like a child. Like, what's the issue?
Right.
But he was also vulnerable. I like that he told him up front, like, yeah, I've had, you know, some of these same issues. And I think he was able to relate with him in a way that I think he doesn't relate to a lot of his patients.
Right. It was, well, because I mean, he had to fill in for what Virginia's role would have been. So he kind of saw the other end of it. Yeah. So now we get past that, and this is where Hef comes in. So now their stories are even more parallel, right? So Hef hits him up, doesn't say that he has Virginia there, just that he is interested in investing, and Bill sees this as an opportunity to move forward as a professional and brings him out to Chicago. So now we're both in Chicago.
Right. And before we do that, I think that there was one scene that was really important. It was when he was looking at the homeless guy.
Oh, yes.
So Libby gives all of Bill's suits to the Salvation Army, and then Bill goes back to get them. He sees this guy in his suit jacket, and he goes, "Oh, excuse me, that's mine." And he's trying to get it back. And there's this scene where they're in the mirror, and he just looks and like. You see this like the shift in focus where he's like looking at him, and then he looks at himself in the mirror, and it's like, I think that was a turning point because Bill it looked like he was on a spiral. He looked rough, and it was just like, I think that was a moment. And then I think the exact line the guy says, Bill says, "I'm trying to fix my life," and then the bum goes, "Join the club." And it's like, I think that was a moment when Bill really realized how much he screwed up.
I totally agree.
Oh wow, like look how far I've come, how far I've free fallen.
I think it was like it really put things into perspective for Bill, because here he is supposedly this very like prestigious doctor, and here's this you know just kind of
homeless
like
guy down on the
homeless,
slab.
like grubby
There.
looking guy, and now he's looking in the mirror and they look exactly the same. He's literally
His
wearing
suit.
his suit, and it's kind of like, damn, I need to get my life together.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's when he shaves the beard.
Yeah, and that is when the beard went. So that's true. But
Bring back the beard.
Yeah.
Please bring back the beard.
Maybe.
Hashtag
Bring back the beard.
Yes.
So
I'm going to start a campaign.
now we're both in the Playboy Mansion, and
Right.
Virginia and Bill, kind of meet and realize that they're both here, and it's kind of awkward.
Yeah.
And Hef tries to, convince them to come together, and I don't know, he kind of like, it was kind of not upsetting, but like, it just really proved that they're a package deal, and no one's really gonna accept them separate. That everyone always sees them together. Hef even, do you guys remember the quote when he was like, Masters and Johnson are never gonna be separated unless it's with dirt and
yes,
gravestone,
and it's
or
gravestone.
something.
Yeah.
And unfortunately,
But I think that the thing is that I think literally goes beyond. Like, I don't think Hef meant it this way, but I think it literally is more than just professionally. And I think that they realize that, yes, I know that you were talking business, but like they knew that like their relationship is more that they're never gonna not need each other and never gonna not want to be with each other, and so it's something that they now have to face and deal with.
Exactly. But they're both just
Stubborn.
they're stubborn by nature. Even like saying that, like, you know what, I could just find a different. Virginia's like, I could just work for a different magazine. Like, we can just still go our separate ways. There's going to be other investors. There's going to be other magazines I can work for. This is not the only place we stop. But then the turning point was Virginia realized that Bill was working without her.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh no,
was
this
jealous.
isn't going to happen.
Well, because I think that's something we have to remember. Like, Bill is still a decorated doctor.
Yeah.
Like, he's very accomplished. And if he wanted to go back to the medical community, he could, without Virginia. And I think she realized that too. Like, oh crap, he could technically do this without me. Although Hef is saying that they're a package deal, I do think that he could survive on his own.
He has a little more clout.
Right. I think whereas Virginia with her career, I think she'd be extremely stalled.
Yeah, for sure. Because Bill was the reason that, like, because even when in the original episode or the first couple seasons, like, Bill was the one putting it all forward, and free beard.
Oh, yes.
Hashtag free beard.
Yes. Thank you.
I was like, whoa. But yeah, Virginia was always riding his coattails, for lack of a better term, lack of a better term, and it's come to a head at this point where it's like, I think she's still, while she is beginning to have her own accomplishments in her own sense of self, she still needs Bill.
And it gets back to what we were talking about earlier, with this being a season really geared towards like women empowerment and the women's rights movement. I think you get right back to that same point. She can't, as a career woman, do what she wants to do in this time period without a man, which really sucks.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, she's coming to realize it. She wrote this whole article. She made this whole entire pitch, and he's still not even really willing to even consider her without Bill by her side. So they come to an agreement. I mean, did you guys notice Bill is still, although he went through all this and he's really feeling some type of way, he's still very much himself. Virginia's, talking to him, and he's kind of just turning down everything she has to say. He always has a smart remark or something smarter to say, just to kind of like shut her up and school her and just be like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like
the control thing.
Yeah.
He's trying to keep his control.
Always.
And I think we've seen him do that with Libby. We've seen him do that with every female, pretty much. Not female, every person pretty much that we've seen him interact with, it's about control for him. And I think he knows that at that moment when Virginia left him in the jail, that she took every piece of power and control that he had. And I think he's literally just trying to find a way to knock her off balance to get that back. And we've seen him do it to her before.
Right.
Well, because he left the last time they were together, he was very like vulnerable. He confessed his love to her. He put, all the ball was in her court. You know what I mean? And she just kind of was like, well, too bad for you.
Yeah.
So, Poor Bill. But
No, poor Bill.
I don't feel bad for him
well,
at
I
all.
feel bad because, you know, his feelings are hurt, but at the same time, he was a jerk, so too bad for you.
Does he have feelings? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So they came to the agreement that they're going to have a working relationship.
How long will that last?
Yeah. Haven't they always had a working relationship?
Yeah, whatever. Apparently they have, but you know how it goes.
Yeah.
So they had a working relationship, and then this episode closes out with Bill doing his community service, telling the story of Joseph. And I feel like they were trying to draw parallels. Like, he was having realizations while he was telling the story.
Yeah, I think it was the faith thing, which let's just pause because I love Niecy Nash.
Yeah,
she
she made a
killed
cameo.
it, and I really hope she's here to stay at least for the next 90 days while Bill is doing this AA. But she was talking to him a little bit about faith, and I think once again when we were talking about the episode coming full circle, and I think as he's saying it, he's having like a click realization in his brain, like, man,
you could just
maybe
see it
that's
in
the
him.
key to life. Like, if I just can have faith in something or someone, things will work out.
Right.
And so I'm hoping that not only he realizes that he needs to like figure that out, but it'll be interesting to see what or who he decides to put his faith in this season.
Right.
Exactly. And then the episode just ends, but I feel like there's so many avenues that we still haven't even explored. I'm like, what the heck?
Do we not remember how last season ended? There's so many questions.
Just glazed over everything. Like, oh yeah, we're back to normal.
We just glazed over so much.
So what are things that we left out?
Okay, where is Dan?
Yeah,
is he alive?
Huge
Are they
question.
married?
Are they together? Is
Where's
my thing.
George? Because how did she even inform him that they were divorcing?
Yeah.
Like, has her dad been with the kids this entire time?
Well, yeah, because she called home, but nobody's children are in the picture. Like, Libby's
always
out
where
doing
are
her
the children?
thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. The children are clearly neglected.
Yes, like, good for
Done with
Libby.
it.
Like, she's being independent, but where are your children?
Yeah. Right?
I don't know. So we don't know where the kids are. We don't know where Dan is. We don't know where George is. We don't. Who was Libby's boyfriend? Paul is his name. What's his name? Is it Paul?
Was it Ethan? I thought it was. Oh no, that's way back.
He was so not a factor in my brain.
Well, the neighbor. Because we
neighbor.
know
We'll
that
call
he
him neighbor
moved
guy.
away.
Neighbor guy is vanished.
I apologize. We need to
figure
look
it
up
out.
his name. So he's gone as well.
Yeah, neighbor guy left the last episode.
The last episode of last season. He
Of
just
last
moved
season.
away.
He just left. Understandably, like, he had been through a lot.
I know, the poor guy.
I would have left too. Like, in all seriousness. But I'm wondering, like, what does that mean for Libby and her life? Because the civil rights guy, like, he had just, like, up and, like, went to boycott in, like, Alabama and never came back. This guy jumps up and he leaves and never comes back. There was a little bit of conversation early on about her dad not really being in her life. So I'm wondering if that's going to come back around this season. Maybe she
or
just
maybe
like
it's a
has
recurring
like
theme. She
people
is attracted
leaving.
to, or like, because I mean maybe because that's what she's used to. She's attracted to that type of guy.
Right. So I'm wondering if that's like a storyline that they're going to explore.
Oh, that's why if we go into predictions, that's what I have a thought about. Like,
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
And so before we go into predictions, I also want to point out that, you know, we have this big open case about the prostitution thing, and I'm not sure if it came to an understanding or not, but the practice is still open.
He mentioned in
it's
court
open.
that he was in the process of looking for an
Lawyers.
attorney still. I think that's probably going to still play out this season as far as what's going to go with that, because it sounds like it's not
over.
I mean, the issue with the little boy, it sounded like it may have been a civil case, and he was able to pay them off for them to then drop the criminal charges. It looks like there's actual criminal charges
for
with the prostitution.
Yeah, and the way he talks about it, it makes it seem like there's going to be something that comes, or we're going to see that flushed out this season. So
Exactly.
that'll be interesting to see.
So I think that's a good segue. Do you guys want to move into predictions?
Finally.
Yes,
Predictions.
Wow.
Thank you.
Now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
The lights. I really love the
I
lights.
know,
like
it
you gotta-
sets the tone.
We have to get in our That's So
You got
Raven.
the
and get
prediction mood. You got to make like the
feel it.
Raven
Yes.
face. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, got it.
Okay, so what's your prediction?
Okay, so going with Libby, and she has this theme of men leaving her life.
Yes.
The scene in that women's group when she was talking to Anita, who's the leader, and she's like, "Take off your bra," and they had that moment when they just kind of laughed at each other.
Yeah.
I'm calling that they're going to be together. They're going to be a relationship the entire time.
You
I was like, this
think
screams
so?
I don't know. I'm not gonna say that Libby is going to like fully like be with us, but I think that is gonna be a thing because this is that time. They are like all feminine. I'm like I 100% think that is gonna be a thing.
And she said she was like I don't know her exact thing was, but she pretty much was like I'm over men.
Men, she did. She goes, yeah, because they were like, she goes, well, I'm definitely done with men if that's what you're asking.
And I think they all had
yeah, and I just that's not me. I don't think that she is like a lesbian. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I do think that she is going to experiment with that. 100%.
That could get me back on Team Libby.
I think that's going to be a thing.
Maybe that was foreshadowing.
It was
a moment between them two.
I can get behind that.
I think that's going to be a thing. So that is my big prediction for the season.
Any other predictions?
I mean, like, I know Bill and that whole working relationship, not gonna be a thing. They're gonna be back together in no time.
I don't think they will. Oh. I think it'll maybe be like episode 11 before we see them get back together.
Oh, they're gonna play it out for sure.
You think they're gonna draw it out?
Yeah, they're gonna have some beef for like a couple episodes. They have to.
And it's not even just beef. I think because we're at this moment where it's all about like women empowerment, I don't think Virginia can go back to Bill after everything that he's done.
Not immediately. Not like just
like
there's no way.
Okay.
She has to sweat it out a little.
But either way, ultimately we know.
I still hope not. Like I really hope that just doesn't. So my prediction is that they don't get back together.
Stay strong, Virginia.
I'm trying for all women everywhere. Don't go back.
Don't do it.
Anything else? Where do you guys see this whole Hugh Hefner thing playing out?
I feel like they're gonna try to work it out, but I feel like there's gonna have to be some more drama with it. Like I don't think it's gonna go as smoothly as it looks like it's going now. Like, oh, we'll work it out for the benefit of the company. I don't think it's gonna be that.
I think it's gonna give Bill a heart attack.
Probably.
I think the first bunny that comes into the office is going to give Bill a heart attack.
Probably.
Bill has always been very conservative. I mean, this is the first time we're seeing him without suspenders or, a suit that matches. Right.
That's so weird.
So I think just even the thought, I don't think he went to go see Hef because he, wanted to just get this money. I think he's at the end of his ropes at this point.
He needed it.
And so I think it's going to be really, really hard for him to work with someone who is let's say a visionary.
Yes.
We'll call him a visionary because he's going to try to sex up what Bill has tried to keep medical in a sense. But I think for him to get into the next stage of understanding sex, he's going to have to really understand Hef.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I think it'll be really, really good.
Yeah, and as a part of my prediction, it's just their brand is very on the line right now. They have this lawsuit going on. Now they're getting involved with Playboy. It's kind of like, what direction are you going here?
They're going to get hammered. Yeah, I mean, not okay.
Oh, I was like, wait, what?
No.
Okay, maybe.
I
think, okay, maybe.
Can't come back from that.
Yeah, I know.
That's funny.
No, I think Bill and Virginia tried really, really hard early on to, set this study as medical and as scientific as possible, but they're getting ready to partner up with the complete opposite of what they asserted it to be. Like, they were accused of this being a smut book, So I'm like, you're going to discredit the work, medical backing that you have?
By joining Playboy. I guess I didn't think about it that way, but
he's
you're right.
Gonna have, so I think that's going to be a crossroad. I predict, by episode 4, he's going to have to decide once and for all what direction he wants to take this study.
What do you think? Do you think that'll be a difference between him and Virginia? Do you think?
For sure.
Well, it had been
from the very jump.
Yes.
But I think the twist will be it'll be opposites. I think Virginia's going to want to keep it more medical. And I think Bill is going to see, especially with the beginning of getting into fetishes this first season, this first episode.
No, but really.
I think Bill's really going to want to get into it because I'm sure Hef has probably seen more of this than they have at this point.
For sure. Well, that's also one thing. I liked that the show talks about actual kind of like, not sexual disorders, but I don't know what else to call it, like fetishes and different things that happen during sex, and still kind of they find a way to talk about it in a not weird way, because I was interested to hear about it. It's a very intelligent conversation. Wow, that was really it was insightful to hear that. And then I also didn't know all that about Hugh Hefner, so I thought that was kind of cool for them. Like, you have a psychology degree and you study. Like,
Oh,
yeah, I was
wrote
like,
for Esquire and all these
because these are things
things.
that I really didn't know, and I think that it's cool to also show that maybe there is more to Playboy. So I think that's another way to play it. There's more to Playboy than just the smut that people think it is.
Exactly.
But side note.
Well, any final thoughts? Any things that we didn't touch on that you guys want to bring up?
I think
we did pretty good.
Yeah,
We
you
checked
touched
all our
on-
notes
on
out.
my-
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
checked
think,
all my-
message for the day is ladies, pumps, not slippers.
Yeah, no more
Final
slippers.
thoughts.
Final
thoughts. No, yeah. I think an overall theme of the show is definitely just kind of women and being being empowered by your own identity and sexuality. That's kind of what I was thinking, but I got
Here to
What a
that.
great final thought from the man of the
That's it.
group.
I love stuff like that. I think women are great.
And I'm worried about footwear.
Yeah.
I'll also be worried.
Right. So we'll wear our stilettos next week.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next week. As always, make sure you follow us on all that jazz. Instagram, Twitter. We got a Snapchat now. And rate us, give us likes, comments, feedback, and we'll bring it up next show. So as I brought up earlier, I'm Olivia Gabaree. Go follow me on Instagram and Twitter at @thereal_O_G.
Awesome. You can find me at Ryan Graham with 2 N's and on Instagram at Instagram.
And as
Yeah, that's very funny.
that was interesting. Okay. And as I said, I'm Domonique. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at DomoniqueP_ESQ.
Hey, all right, guys. We'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.